Hi, I'm Colleen, and this is my birthday book haul. So, I buy myself a lot of birthday presents. I do. I'm a grown up, and so I do. I like to buy myself a lot of birthday presents. And yesterday was my birthday, so I spent the morning going to 3 different bookstores, bought myself a big old pile of books, and I thought I would show you what I got. Now, I was gonna start the video holding all the books, but they're very different shapes and sizes, and that just sounds like a mess, and I don't want to accidentally drop my hardcovers and damage them because that's very upsetting when it happens. So instead, I'll figure something out for the thumbnail, which you've already seen, and I just have them in a pile next to me. We're going to start with the books that I got at a local indie bookstore that I used to work at, so I love going there, and I get a nice discount since I'm a former employee. The first one I got was When Women Were Dragons by Kelly Barnhill. Now, I've been really looking forward to this book and couldn't wait to read it, and I was super excited when I got there and they had a display of it because it did come out on my birthday, so I was a little worried that maybe if something happened with their shipment and they didn't get it, I wouldn't be able to get it, but I did. So this one takes place in the 1950s. It's a historical fantasy. It's about a girl who has lived through the dragoning of 1955, in which a bunch of women just turned into dragons and flew away. Her mom did not turn into a dragon, but her aunt did, who she loved. And the story is supposedly about why they turned into dragons. Are they ever going to come back? What the heck happened? At the same time, the main character, I think her name is Alex. Yes, Alex has sort of a crush, and I'm not sure if it's going to turn into a dating relationship on a girl and her classmates, and one of her classmates is considered very taboo for the time, and I'm just really excited to read this. This just feels like a great book for me to read when it's nice out and I can just sit in the sun and just devour this book. I haven't read anything else by Kelly Barnhill. I don't know if she's written anything else. Oh, she wrote The Girl Who Drank the Moon, which I have heard of. It's a kid's book, though, and it won the Newbery. Oh, I should probably read that. Yeah, can't wait. The next book I got from that bookstore is Murdering Mr. Wickham, which is by Claudia Gray, and this is a fun, cozy mystery in which all of Jane Austen's characters are at a dinner party together, and Mr. Wickham gets murdered. And the daughter of Catherine and Henry Tilney from Northanger Abbey, her name's Juliet. She and Jonathan Darcy, who's the daughter of the Darcys, are going to solve the mystery together. So I think it'll be really fun. I love Jane Austen, and I haven't read a cozy in a while, so I felt like it might be fun to read a cozy mystery, and I'm looking forward to it. Next, I got Kingdom of Copper by S.A. Chakraborty, I think is how you say her last name, and I had been planning on reading this summer. I read City of Brass last summer. I find them to be nice summer reads. They're big, thick fantasy books, and they are fun to sit in the sun and read. I'm going to see if this one has a good map like the other one does. I got to check. Ooh, it has a different map. Oh, I can't wait. That looks like a city. So I'm looking forward to this one. Oh, cool. Oh, I can't wait. So this series is kind of like a high fantasy that takes place in the 1700s. In the first book, we start in Cairo, but then we move to this magical world kind of laid on top of ours, in which there's different kinds of people who have powers, including jinn. Our main character is Nari, and there's another main character whose name I'm forgetting, Ali. And they are kind of embroiled in this political intrigue going on among the magical creatures. I can't wait to read this. I'm looking forward to it. I'll probably save this one for July when it's high summer and I'm sitting outside all day watching my kids and read this book. Okay, so next I went to Barnes & Noble because the bookstore I used to work at didn't have a book in yet that came out on my birthday that I really wanted, and so I needed to get it, and that is Electra by Jennifer Saint. And I was bummed they only had ones with these stickers because it's a book club book, and I'm afraid to take them off because I'm afraid I'm going to rip the cover. I didn't even check to see if yeah, it's just plain orange. Oh, it does have a cool stamp on it. So Jennifer Saint wrote Ariadne, which I really, really liked, and I think Electra is a very cool character in Greek mythology. She is the daughter of Clytemnestra and Agamemnon. I'm curious to see how this changes from the original myth. We also have Clytemnestra as a narrator and Cassandra. And Cassandra is one of my favorite characters in Greek mythology. She is the sister of Paris and Hector, and she was cursed by Apollo after saying she wouldn't basically have an affair with him to be able to see the future, but no one will believe you. So Cassandra sees like the burning of Troy before it happens, but no one believes her. There's a retelling of Cassandra's story called The Firebrand by Marion Zimmer Bradley, which I read in like 2003 and absolutely adored. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how Jennifer Saint takes these 3 characters and makes them her own. I'm probably going to read this one really soon. And then while I was at Barnes & Noble, I just decided to check out the romance section. The store that I used to work at has a romance section, but it's really small, and they didn't have anything that I either hadn't already read or wasn't interested in. But then at Barnes & Noble, I got While the Duke Was Sleeping by Sophie Jordan, and I've wanted to read this series for a really long time. And for a while, this book was out of print. So when I saw it, I was like, because this is the first book in the series, The Rogue Files. So when I saw it, I was like, I have to get it. And I know this is like a Regency retelling of While You Were Sleeping, the movie, which I saw in the theater when I was like way too young and to enjoy it and really didn't like it. But I think I'm probably old enough now that I like this story better. Okay, so next I went to Half Price Books and I went crazy. And that happens a lot when I go to Half Price Books, especially because I also sold some books back, not as many as I thought they would take, and I only got like $7, but that's like the price of one of the more expensive books I picked. But I did get a lot. So let's start with the romance I got. I found Goddess of the Hunt by Tessa Dare, and I don't know a lot about this series. It's got like very different covers, so it has, stands out a little bit more than her other ones. It's published by Ballantine, not by Avon. And I know it's one of her early ones, but I'm definitely going to give it a try and see if I like it. I love Tessa Dare, so I can't imagine I won't love this. Oh, it's got some good lines already, just like flipping through and looking at it. So that just looked like something fun to read. Whenever I go to Half Price Books, I literally comb the romance shelves. Like I go like book by book. And they had 4.5 shelves of Nora Roberts. And they had 2 full shelves of Danielle Steele, which I'm not a big Nora Roberts fan, and I haven't read a Danielle Steele since I was like 12. But sometimes you can find some good gems, and I did. Next, I grabbed Seduce Me at Sunrise by Lisa Kleypas because this is my favorite Lisa Kleypas. But when I read it, I was a poor grad student, so I didn't buy it. I just got it from the library, and I've wanted to own it because I really want to reread it. This summer I decided I'm going to reread a lot of my favorites, so I wanted to reread this one and see if it's still my favorite because I've read a lot of recent ones that are fantastic, but I just love Kev Maripin. So this book I would describe as like if you liked Wuthering Heights but like hated the end that they didn't end up together, this is kind of, it's better story. This is kind of like that though. We've got like this child that's been taken in by this wealthy family, and he and one of the daughters have this relationship, but then he goes away for a long time and comes back, and she's got this other person courting her. If you like a pining hero, you'll love this one. This also is my favorite sex scene in any romance novel, so I'm hoping it holds up. Next, I have Undressed with the Marquess by Christy Caldwell. I've read 1 or 2 Christy Caldwells before, and I really like them, so when I saw this one, and it was a good price for how big it is. I already took the tags off, but I think it was only like $5.99 or something for like a big trade. Next, I grabbed Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. I read a Talia Hibbert that I loved. It was Mating the Huntress, which was it's like a paranormal, like werewolf hunter falls in love with the werewolf. It's very fun. But I've heard so many good things about this whole series, and I actually am not sure if this is the first one or not, but I feel like I can probably read them out of order if it's not. And I've been meaning to pick up this series for so long, so when I saw it, I was like, I need to read this. I'm going to get it. This is a great summer read for me, a fun romance, looking forward to it. I don't tend to like illustrated covers very much, but I do think this one's really cute. Okay, so that's all the romance that I got. So let's move on. I got 2 classics because I do have I did a video which I can post in the description about all the classics I want to read this year. And I'm finding that it takes me kind of a long time sometimes to read classics, so it's kind of hard to get them from the library because then I feel like I have them out for way too long. Case in point, last month I tried to read Brideshead Revisited, and I just had the book out for way too long, and I wanted to get more stuff out, so I ended up returning it. They didn't have Brideshead Revisited at Half Price Books because I was looking for it, but I'll continue to go there every once in a while to sell books back and keep an eye out for it. But so I decided to buy a couple of the classics that I'm planning on reading this month so that I don't have to have them out of the library for a really long time. And the first one is The House of Spirits by Isabel Allende. And I don't know that much about this book other than people have told me I would like it because it has a lot of magical realism. It opens with a Pablo Neruda quote, which makes me think I'm really going to like it because I really like his poetry. So now that I have it, I don't have to worry about if it takes me a long time to read it. I can just take my time reading it this summer and enjoy it with no pressure, with a return date from the library. My next classic I grabbed is My Antonia by Willa Cather, and this one has like a really bad sticker on here that I'm going to get off because I did used to work at a bookstore, and so I know the tricks. And you know what the trick is? Windex. If you put Windex on a paper towel, you can usually get the gummy sticker off. It usually works. There are some that are stubborn that won't come off, but Windex tends to work better than Goo Gone. You're welcome. So I wanted to read My Antonia for a while. This is a really short book, like, because this has like a huge introduction in here. So maybe this will be the one I read in May. I might read this one in May. We'll see. But yeah, can't wait. This is like pioneer vibes and all that jazz. And let's see, Nebraska Plains, A Free-Spirited Antonia, American Portrait, Struggling Community. Yeah, I think I'm going to like this. I like pioneer stories a lot because I live in the Midwest, so we study a lot of pioneer stuff in elementary school. And so I think I'll really like this one. Okay, so these are just kind of like, this is like general, the last three. But I got Blackbird House by Alice Hoffman. And this was an Alice Hoffman I hadn't heard of. So she's most famous for Practical Magic, and then also like The Rules of Magic, Magic Lessons. And there's another one I can't remember the title of. I'll pop it right there. And but while I like those, Alice Hoffman wrote The Dove Keepers, which is one of my favorite books of all time, which is a telling of basically the province of Judea during the Roman Empire, and it's a beautiful story. Like, I would say if you really are into like books that are like Circe and like The Red Tent, The Mists of Avalon, those kind of books, definitely read The Dove Keepers. It's fantastic. So Blackbird House is a story that takes place over 200 years, and I've talked about that in previous videos that I really love stories that span like generations, centuries, thousands of years in terms of like Circe and the Witch's Heart. Those are like my favorite kind of books. So when I saw that, I was like, I have to pick this up. I know there's a couple different narrators. It takes place in Cape Cod, which is off the coast of Massachusetts, or it's part of Massachusetts in the U.S., and I think I'm really going to love it. Alice Hoffman is just like one of those writers that when you see something written by her that you haven't heard of, you're like, I should probably pick that up. So hopefully I'll love it. Next, I grabbed The Red Tent, which is by Anita Diarmuid. And this is one of my favorite books of all time. When I read it, I got it from the library, and I loved it so much. I think I read it 2 times right in a row when I got it from the library. And then I've always told myself, I'm going to buy it. Every time I go to Half Price Books, I look for it, and they finally had it. So I was like, well, I'm going to buy it. I want to reread it this summer. It's such an amazing story. It's like, when people say they love Circe, I'm like, you need to read The Red Tent, because there's these books, and I love Circe so much. These books are very similar in tone and in the way they make you feel when you're just following this person's story for so long and all the hardships in their life and all the joy. And I really, really love this. Now, this is a book that is sort of a biblical retelling. So if you're not comfortable with that, obviously I wouldn't recommend it. But it tells the story of Dinah, who is Jacob's only daughter. And we start with the story of Jacob's 4 wives and how he came to be married to them and his relationships with each of them. And then we follow Dinah and his other children through the eyes of Dinah. Now, Dinah's really famous in the Bible that she doesn't have a big part. She's basically like a catalyst that her basically rape in the Bible starts off this like war between 2 different groups. And reading her story, which obviously this is just Anita Diarmuid's decision to make her story, is wonderful. And you really get a sense of like what it was like for women at this time period living in these tents. And you get a mix of both early Judaism and like the old pagan religions of the time. And if you are someone who's extremely familiar with the Bible, which I did go to Catholic school and take Old Testament, there were a lot of other gods and goddesses around at that time period that were not, seen. It's not the same as like in the New Testament, in which like every other god is viewed almost as like devil-like. They're more viewed as like other gods, and not necessarily not real, but just like not the one you were supposed to worship. So this book has a lot of that in there too, which I really like because I love early religion, mythology, that kind of stuff. So that was a really long description to say that this is a book that I absolutely adore and want to reread this summer. So I bought it. Okay, and then if you recently watched my Juliette Marillier video, which I'll link in the description, I love that author, but I'm missing several of her books because I lent them to people and they never gave them back to me. And they had Wolfskin in hardcover, which my other part of the series is in like the large trade paper, but I felt like the hardcover would look nice on my shelf compared to like the tiny mass market, so I grabbed it. This is another one I also really want to reread. I love this book, but I haven't read it since I was, I think, like a senior in college is when I read this one, so it's been a very long time, maybe a junior in college, but it's been a really long time. I want to reread it. I want to see if I still love it as much as I did. Also, Juliette Marillier doesn't have anything coming out she doesn't have anything on the books right now to come out, so I was like, I can reread this, and it'll take a little bit of the edge off while I'm waiting for another book to be published in like 2 or 3 years, whenever it ends up coming out. They also had hardcovers of the two other books I'm missing, but because I don't want to reread those ones, I thought I'm just going to buy this one. I had already bought like so many books and spent a lot of money. So I was like, I'll just buy this one. It's good to know those other 2 hardcovers are there. They're both middle of series, so I don't think they're going to be taken right away. When I go back to sell more books after I go through my bookcase, which I do, a couple times a year, I'll maybe trade in for one of those. So that was my enormous birthday book haul. It didn't include my 2 books I got from Book of the Month this year because currently my package is out for delivery, but it's not here yet, and I got to pick my kids up from school before it's going to get here, so I couldn't wait to film. And I picked Breathless, and I can't remember who the author is, but I'll put the cover right here so you can see the author's name. And this one is like a thriller that takes place on a mountain. I've been finding with Book of the Month, I usually really enjoy the thrillers I buy, so I was like, I'm going to get a thriller. I almost skipped this month because none of these 6 books for May really grabbed me. I did pick Breathless, but there was none of them were like, I really want to read that. And there were so many books coming out in May that I wanted to read so badly that I was wavering. But here's how they get you. Siren Queen by Nevo, which is one of the books I wanted to read so bad in May, was an add-on. And you can't get an add-on unless you pick a book. So I was like, I could technically wait till July and get it as an add-on in July, but then I started getting worried because it has gotten a lot of hype, and a lot of people do love Nevo. I'm like, what if they sell out? Because they do sell out, and you do get a really good deal on the hardcover. If you buy it as an add-on, it's like $11, I think. So I did figure I'll get Breathless. I didn't buy any thrillers from anywhere else. I got the one cozy mystery. So I thought I'll buy Breathless. I'll have a thriller for this next couple months, and then I can also get Siren Queen, which I really want to read. So I did do that. So this is also basically the books I'm going to read this summer. Obviously, I own some others, and I have some ARCs that I'll be reading as well. But this is also kind of like a May, June, July TBR for you as well. I hope you saw some books in here that you were excited about, and some maybe new releases that looked fun, or some old favorites that you had been meaning to get to and hadn't. Remember to support all your local bookstores, whether they be half-price books or a used bookstore or a Barnes & Noble or an indie. I'm very lucky to live in an area where there are a ton of bookstores. I went to 3 bookstores yesterday in 2 hours, and I could have put 2 to 5 more in because we have a ton of indie bookstores where I live, which is really, really nice. I hope you are in the middle of a good book, about to start reading a good book, or about to start writing a great book. See you soon.